How can you use the Garmin to reduce your probability of becoming sick throughout the year? Let's take a look at this in detail. If you have followed me for any period of time, you know I'm a huge fan of the Garmin platform, both the watch itself as well as the analytics that you get off of the Garmin Connect dashboard. When it comes to minimizing your downtime associated with an injury, I want you to stop and focus on the variable of stress. The beautiful part about Garmin is Garmin is looking at your stress score on a daily basis, literally minute by minute, day by day, and it's bouncing it off of the historical data that it knows and has collected about you for as long as you've worn the watch and been using the platform. I get this question quite often. Hey Rob, what is a good resting heart rate? Well, it depends on what your heart rate has been over the last 6 months. If you're up 5 beats over your 6-month average, not a good sign. If you've been working on your cardiovascular fitness and you're noticing that the resting heart rate's coming down, that's a good sign. That's an indication that your aerobic capacity is improving. But I want to come back to the subject of stress. As a general rule of thumb, the best experience, the best results that I've had with all my clients is when we can keep the average stress score below a 25. Now, I don't live in a glass house, my clients don't, and neither do you. So we want to approach this realistically, but stop and think about what happens when your stress gets to a point that your immune system can't keep up. Your immune system gets beat down. When you're extremely stressed out, believe it or not, your digestive system gets shut down. A lot of people don't realize this. The human body has what we call the hierarchy of needs. So if you're dealing with a relationship issue, if you're dealing with a rogue boss, if you're going through all kinds of trials and tribulations in other areas of your life, when I say other, in our relationship, I'm always going to be addressing the health, wellness, and performance component. But when we look at that personal, when we look at your financial, when we look at your professional side of things, if the stress is at an all-time high, stress will suppress appetite. And the reason why that's such an important component of this conversation is the only thing that can strengthen your immune system is sleep and food. Well, what happens when you don't get enough food, quality and or quantity-wise? It has a negative impact on your sleep. So now think about how the dominoes are stacking up. Not eating a lot of food because the stress level is high. Because you're not satisfying hunger and you're not giving the body the nutrients it needs to rebuild itself, sleep now becomes negatively impacted. So instead of waking up feeling refreshed, you're even more exhausted than when you went to bed because the body didn't get a chance to rejuvenate itself. Well, you start stacking that day over day over day, and this is where the stress score on the Garmin becomes absolutely invaluable. Look at your 7-day average. Is it below a 25? You can look in the bottom left-hand corner. It'll give you what the average is for 7 days. Now change the display to 4 weeks. How's your 4-week average looking? Because remember, the tail of the snake is following the head. If you've had a really rough couple weeks and you can foresee that there's some big issues coming up, we want to treat it like a sporting event and almost preempt it. You want to proactively make sure that you're eating and that you're sleeping and you're staying hydrated. Getting out and doing some low intensity exercise, getting in the sun, getting some vitamin D, getting some sun on your skin. There's all kinds of things that we can do to offset stress when we know it's coming. I want to come back to the original conversation. What about the immune system? If you've been sick more than once in the last year, you really need to stop and look at your stress scale. Now, when we're looking at stress, we're going to make a few assumptions, and that is that your eating quality and quantity is dialed. We're going to make an assumption that you're staying properly hydrated during the day, and we're going to make an assumption that the lion's share of your training is aerobic. With my clients, I like it to be anywhere between 70 and 75% aerobic. The rest is going to be anaerobic, and anaerobic does include strength training. Very important. When we step back and we look at how do we strengthen your immune system, you've got to decrease the residual daily amount of stress that you're going through. I'll say it one more time. I don't live in a glass house. I know life can be very stressful for all of us. We all have our trials and tribulations. But when you find your immune system is getting beat up, and one of the easiest ways to see it is how often have you gotten sick? How quickly does the illness reoccur? This is where I want you to look at the residual of the last 3 weeks, the last 4 weeks, the last 6 months, the last year. You've got a number right there. This is where you can start to hedge it off looking forward. Maybe you need to start looking for a new job because you realize the stress of your job is literally killing you. Maybe it's time to look at going to counseling with your partner to try to see if you can make this relationship work. Maybe there's got to reevaluate that budget so that there's not more month at the end of the money. I don't say that to be crass or disrespectful. I just want you to realize if the stress level right now coming into today's conversation is high and you don't make any kind of changes to offset the historical info, it's not going to get any better. The difficult part with stacking of stress is it will literally get to a point where it becomes exponential. And once it starts stacking exponentially, this is what leads into, if you can think about this from a flow pattern, cells make up tissue, tissues make up makes up the series of organs, and the grouping of organs makes up a complete system. Well, if you go to the doctor and you get diagnosed with some fatigue-related disease, that's when the system itself is completely annihilated. And obviously that includes everything that precedes it. That's why we highly recommend that you get your blood work done once every 3 to 4 months. Try to catch things before they become a problem. Hedge them off. So I wanted to just kind of address that. When we're looking at Garmin, Garmin has a tremendous amount of information about you. Because you're the one wearing it, it's completely unique to yourself. But the cool part is it's taking what you're dealing with today and it's comparing it to what it knows about you historically. And those graphs are a tremendous resource for you to be able to identify them before they become a problem. And the cool part is once you know what you're looking for, and let's say you make some adjustments and you see the stress levels decrease, you now have a kind of a blueprint. You have a plan. Hey, stress is starting to tick up. Maybe I need to take a day and go to the beach. Maybe I need to go get a book and just sit on the shore of a lake where it's peaceful. Maybe you need to go for a walk. Maybe you need to go visit some friends or family. If it's worked in the past, it's going to work in the future. It's just about knowing when to implement it before it becomes a problem. With that being said, I hope you guys are starting to see the incredible value of the Garmin. I don't get paid by Garmin. I'm not a brand ambassador in any shape, way, but what I'm most interested in is making sure that you are getting access to resources that helps you make great, simple decisions that will positively influence your life daily, and it will change you both physically as well as athletically. If you happen to have any questions, please do me a favor, send it directly to me. contact@coachrobb.com. If you're new, thank you so much for watching today. Please remember to subscribe, like this video if you don't mind, and turn on the notifications because we're putting out another video tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you then.